This is Computer Science 1213, Introduction to Computing. I'm Chris Rule, the instructor, and this is a video about Project 3.3 on page 135 of the textbook. That particular project says, using a person from the Alice Gallery to find a method named walk-in square that has a parameter named edge length. When walk-in square with parameter of some distance is sent to your person, he or she should move in a square with edges that are that certain distance long. Make certain your person begins and ends at the same spot. When the person is done, have the person say the area and the perimeter of the square. The following list of items will be what I look for when grading your project. I will assign point values to the items to total 25 points at a later time. In the rubric, I will be looking for the person being used as opposed to some other object. The person will come from the first 5 selections in the biped gallery. The method should be named walk-in square, and it should also be in the correct position. A parameter is used named edge length. When the program runs, the person moves in a square that is a certain length. The person begins and ends at the same spot. The person says the area of the square descriptively, and the person says the perimeter of the square descriptively. And both of these last 2 items must be shown in the code to be calculations and not just a particular number. So with that in mind, let's look at Alice. I've opened up a new project with the grass background, and I'm going to go set up the screen. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this down to about 1/3. So I want to follow the rule of thirds, and then I'm going to pick out of these first 5 options some person. I'm going to generate a random person. I want somebody a little bigger than that. Don't want anybody in a dress because they're going to be walking. Alright, here's a person. We'll use this one. And it's called adult person, which is fine. You can call them whatever you want. So here's the person. The first thing I want to do is I want to move that person. So I'm going to move that person over here to the left. And then I'm going to make this person a little bit bigger so I can see the person. Here's the person. Now I'm going to rotate the position of the person with this red one down here. When it changes color, I can rotate it. And I want that to be perpendicular from the camera. So I'm going to switch the view to the top. And I'm not too far off. I'm going to go back up here to the red. Take it to the left just a little bit. That's a little too far. That's pretty good. So now in relation to the camera, the person is perpendicular. So now I'll go back to the starting camera view. This person is ready to move. This person will move this way and then back that way and then over this way and come back to the same spot. All right, let's look at the code. It said to create a method named walk-in square. So let's click on this hexagon, see what we have. I'm going to have, it said to pick a person from the Alice Gallery. So I just want any person to be able to be used in this. So I'm going to add a procedure, which is a method, to the person level. It's not a biped, because then you could have a wolf or an alien or a yeti or something like that. We just want this to be for a person. So I'm going to move it down here, and I'm going to call this walk in square, starting with a lowercase w, and then an uppercase I for in, and the uppercase S for square. That'll be the name of the method. Now when that is created, up here at the top, you can add a parameter. And it said in the directions that it has a parameter named edge length. So I'm going to add a parameter, and it's going to be called edge, starting with lowercase e, then the uppercase L, length. And the value will be a decimal number. And then I'll hit OK. And up here at the top, and you can add more than one. There's a spot up here to add another parameter if you need it. For this particular project, we only need one. So we have a decimal, which is the same as a double variable called edge length. Now a parameter can exist in more than one method. So if we look at my first method, we can find this edge length variable in here. Now, what we need to do is find out how far this person needs to go. So I'm going to get another variable, and I'm going to call this one dist for distance, and this one will be a decimal value, and I'm going to set it to 1. So now I have a variable called distance or dist with a value of 1. Now I'm going to change that 1. And what I want to do is get a double, which is the same as a decimal, from the user. Instead of setting it to 1, I want the user to be able to put it in. And now it asks me about text. Well, the term hello probably wouldn't say much. So let me do custom texting and say how far I should go on one side. Or maybe we should ask it as a question. How far should I go on one side? And I don't need a space there at the end because it'll show a dialog box when it runs. So now I'm asking for a decimal number. It's going to be stored in dist, and it's going to come from the user, person running the program. So let's run this and see what it looks like. So this box comes up, and the text that I put in is up here. It says, how far should I go on one side? I'm going to put in a 4 and click OK. And then that 4 gets stored in dist. All right, so if I look over here at this adult person, under excuse me, under the procedures, there's one that says this adult person, walk-in square, edge length. And there's the dist, that variable, which tells me how far that person is supposed to go. So now this adult person that I have in my scene will execute what's in walk-in square using the value for the parameter that's in this variable dist. So if I click on walk-in square, there is nothing there. So they're not going to do anything. But what would you need to do to make them walk in a square? Well, they have to move. Move forward, edge length. And then they'll turn left or right. And they'll continue in this process until they go all the way around. Now, once you're finished with that, once they get back to the original starting point, they have to calculate the area and the perimeter of the square. One side is edge length. So if I create another variable, and let's call it area, and it's going to be a decimal, and I'm going to put edge length in there. Right there. But the area is defined as the edge length multiplied by the edge length. So if I click this down arrow beside the edge length, I can do math. And what I want to do is take the edge length and multiply it by another edge length. And that'll give me the area. Now if I define another variable and call it the perimeter, and it will be a decimal, and it will be edge length. The perimeter is the edge length times 4. So if I go back to my math, I could go down here to edge length times, and then pick a custom decimal number, put in a 4, and press enter, and that will be the perimeter. And then you have to put some text string in here saying the area is equal to, or the perimeter is equal to, for them to say at the end. And that concludes the help for Project 3.3 on page 135 in the textbook.